Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Game Plan. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at VerifiedInvesting.com. Awesome to be with you after a day when the stock market was closed. Yesterday, we had the live Q&A during this time. It was a 2-hour event. It was awesome. Thank you for all the questions. I know we didn't get to all the questions, but we're going to do our best to get through them at some point in the future. All right, so we have a lot to discuss today. We got jobless claims numbers coming in at 238,000. That was slightly higher than expected. Remember, that follows a number last week of 243,000. So the economy definitely is getting weaker here. The jobs situation is getting weaker. And globally, there are risks out there. So we're going to get into all of this. Let's get right to it. All right. First and foremost, let's take a look at the S&P 500. S&P 500 is up slightly on the day. What we see very clearly here is this is where we closed on Tuesday, and this is where we opened pre-market this morning, right? So 4 in the morning, the SPY begins to trade, the S&P 500, and we can see it did roll over a little bit. Now, the reason for the rollover, folks, is the weaker economic data. Housing starts were weaker. Jobless claims were weaker. All of the key metrics on the economic side today were weaker than expected, and we are seeing now more and more that weak economic data is actually bringing the market down. What is that telling us? It's telling us the market is a little nervous about will the Federal Reserve cut interest rates enough when the economy slows to a certain point. Basically, they're saying, okay, what if inflation stays at 3% or above, but the economy starts to nosedive? Will the Fed cut enough, or can they cut enough without triggering a new wave of inflation? So this is what the market's dealing with. It for the longest time, it was bad news is good for the economy or the stock market. Now it's bad news is bad again. Now you might say, well, the S&P is still up on the day, so why is that bad? Well, number one, since the economic data, we have fallen down a little bit. But number two, it is the Nvidia show. It just is. Nvidia this morning, 3.5% gain, biggest market cap out there. It's added almost $2 trillion. Think about this. $2 trillion in market cap since the start of the year, just about. That is insane. Holy cow. Talk about printing presses. We'll just start calling the Nvidia the new Federal Reserve in terms of printing money, or the U.S. government at that rate as well. All right. In any case, that's where we are on the S&P this morning. If we flip over to the daily chart, I'm really watching today closely. So we do have a triple witching event this Friday. That's tomorrow. Triple witching is when you have multiple expirations at the end of the quarter, the third Friday of the last month of each quarter. And again, it tends to be a point where you get a lot of volatility. So looking at the S&P here, the spiders, we know that we're into a key level today. I'm very curious if the S&P holds its little gain that it has thus far and gets above this line, or does the volatility from this triple witching come in to play and we see a rollover in the S&P? And I'm just going to be honest with you guys again, it's all going to be determined by Nvidia. If Nvidia stays up where it is, markets are probably going to be up. If Nvidia rolls over a little bit, markets might be down. It is the Nvidia show, no doubt about it. All right, so we're going to watch that level. I'll talk about this in trading the close today. We'll look at the charts, see what the action was today, and obviously dissect it for you on a chart and probability basis. Couple things we want to go over here. Looking at the Nvidia chart, again, incredible movement. If we just go over here, and I just want to show you guys the insanity of this. If we just go to the start of the year, right, where this market or where Nvidia was at the start of the year, it was literally right here. And as of now, we're trading, last I checked, we were trading just above 140 pre-market. That's 182% gain on Nvidia since the start of the year. Incredible price action. And again, literally single-handedly carrying this market. Remember, on Tuesday, Apple was down. Microsoft was around the flat line. Markets were up, new all-time highs because of Nvidia. Today, Apple, last I checked, is down again today. Not a lot, but it's just not adding to the S&P or the NASDAQ. And we are seeing markets are up again. I think Microsoft is around the flat line. So very clearly, again, it is a one-stock pony here, or one-stock show. Couple things to go over here in terms of pre-market action. I'm keeping a very close eye on some rollovers in the semiconductor space. So this is, again, these are basically looking for breadcrumbs, right? As a trader, I have to be looking for little signals that might tell me something bigger is approaching. One of them is an interesting one here. This is the chart of the pre-market chart of Qualcomm. Now, Qualcomm, over the weekend, it was divulged that they're working with some players out there. They're continuing to get upgrades, all of that good stuff. The stock opened higher in the pre-market. Look at the rollover it's seen here. So again, not that this is telling us anything yet about Nvidia, but what we're doing is we're looking at breadcrumbs for the overall market. The other thing to look at here is we also have ARM Holdings. ARM Holdings opening near 180 this morning. This is pre-market, 4 in the morning, right? Really early. Most of us are sleeping unless you're in a different time zone. But now it's trading near the lows, and it's actually negative from where it closed on Friday as well. So there are certain semis that are rolling over a little bit today. We want to follow overall how those semis perform, but then does it impact Nvidia, or does Nvidia just not even care and continue to go higher? All right, couple other charts that I'm watching here in the pre-market action. Micron, I think we want to look at Micron here. Micron's a key one because it almost put in a topping tail on Friday, but there's a key trend line here. And what we can do is if we zoom out, in fact, I'll go to the weekly chart so it's easier to see. But if we look at the weekly chart, look at what it hit on Friday. There's this trend line here, and I put arrows there so you can really see. All along here, this was hitting, then it broke lower, came back, hit the line, took another nosedive, then this big surge right up to this line, put in a pseudo, we'll call it a pseudo topping tail on Friday. Today, pre-market, it's trading up, but it's not trading above Friday's high. That's going to be something I watch throughout the course of the day. Does Micron go above and close above Friday's high? That would negate any bearishness. Or does it hold or reverse to the downside? And then that would be very bearish for the chart for a corrective move. Okay, one other chart I mentioned before, we talked about Qualcomm. Look at the daily Qualcomm chart. You got a topping tail. This is an official topping tail. Again, official topping tail. This is where I get into the teaching aspect. I'll quickly go over that. Let me just go over that now. What is a topping tail? So topping tails are reversal bearish signals. Bottoming tails are reversal bullish signals. How do you know if it's a topping tail? Couple criteria. Number one, it has to be at the high of a chart in recent history. Needless to say, Qualcomm is at all-time highs, so it's at the high of a chart in recent history. Number two, it has to be a decent-sized tail, decent-sized candle. You also need the tail portion, which is the top portion. It's kind of a wick, but we'll call it a tail since it's a topping tail. That has to be at least 50% or greater of the entire length of the candle. In this case, it is. It's much greater than 50%. And the close of this candle, which was the close on Tuesday, must be in the lower 25 percentage points. If you can check all these things off, 1, 2, 3, 4, you get a topping tail. And that's what we have here on Qualcomm. Now, again, interesting to note that Qualcomm pre-market was up and it's now rolled over. Next up, what do we want to do? Let's go to this bigger time frame here. If we zoom out, look at the trend line where that hit, where the topping tail was formed. Look at that amazing line from the 2013 highs all the way up to the 2021 highs, and then we're just tagging it right up here as well. So again, it's all about breadcrumbs at this point. Nvidia is the powerhouse. We know that. That's not in dispute. We are looking for those little signals that might tell us there's some underlying weakness out there. Now, something else that's catching my eye. Let's get right into this, guys. So we know that the CAC, which is the French stock market, has had a pretty big rollover, right? So we've seen that panic come in. We did see a little bit of a bounce here over the last couple days, but this is a pretty substantial rollover, right? So this is the daily chart of the French stock market. This is when the political turmoil began. One of the French officials was asked, could this turmoil trigger a financial crisis? And the answer was yes, it could. Interestingly enough, then the EU came out and said, hey, France, you need to get your debt in order, your basically your financial house in order. And my guess is the European Union, since it's all interconnected over there, is now a little nervous that if you get a financial crisis in Greece, could it then spread through the whole EU? Now, France has about 110% debt to GDP. They have I think it's about 5 trillion or so in debt. But the point being is that this, again, little things like this, and I say little things because, it's not like, the economy collapsed over there or anything. It's political turmoil, and yes, it can be a big event. But my point is that these factors, like something that seems to us in the U.S. like no big deal, like, okay, let them work it out over there. When you have a house of cards like the entire global financial system is built on, and when I say house of cards, I literally mean debt, guys. Like, there's so much debt out there that if one domino goes, the entire thing can start to blow up. And that's the issue here, folks, is that you have every country, Japan, China, US, Europe, every country has massive amounts of debt, and it's all built on this, basically on the same structure. So if you lose one, it can all tumble to the downside. Now, in terms of the CAC here, we are potentially making a bearish pattern here off of this rollover, potential M top right here. So I do honestly think that there is more downside on this to the downside on the CAC. And that brings up another interesting point here. Let's take a look at the DAX here in Germany. This is the German DAX, right? The German stock market. And one of the things that I was looking at here is you actually do have a very interesting pattern formation here and even a breakdown, right? So if we put this trend line in, that gives us our highs, right? So you can see it right here, pivot high to pivot high to pivot high. Then the rollover, look at this rollover, and I'm going to do it on the daily chart so we can see it a little bit more closely here. But basically you have a technical breakdown on the DAX right here, right? So you can see this wedge pattern was forming, a classic wedge. You got the higher high on the M, right, which is very normal. Bitcoin did that. I mean, natural gas did that when it topped out. And then you got this breakdown right here, and then you're getting a bear flag. So to me, it looks like the European indices, a majority of them, are starting to break down, which again is probably this worry about contagion spreading out of France. And again, if you get more and more of that over there, likelihood is the U.S. will start to feel pressure. Japan is already something I'm watching on my radar here, as we have, again, a couple things to note. Number one, the U.S. dollar yen is starting to push up again, so that's telling us the yen is weakening. I'm going to show you that chart in just 1 second, but the idea here is that there are landmines out there for the U.S. even. All right, and again, Europe's already starting to feel it with their stock markets, but again, this is spreadable. This is definitely something that needs to be on your radar. And by the way, are investors worried at all? Not one bit. If you look at the VIX, 12 on the VIX. That's historically ridiculously low, means no fear out there at all. So the investing public is ignoring it because Nvidia is taking up the entire screen. It's like almost like they have goggles on. Investors have goggles, and all they see is NVDA, and they just are watching that unfold. It's taking up all the media attention. My goal here at Verified Investing is to make you guys aware of other things, not so you're not towing the line with the narratives out there that are being pushed on you guys. There's other things going on that can influence here. I'd rather you guys be prepared. Maybe nothing happens, but be prepared. Much better to be prepared. All right, I mentioned quickly the dollar yen. Let's go over that real quickly here. The dollar yen has a classic upsloping, basically an upsloping pattern here. I have a channel. There's a classic trend line right here. We can bring this up into this range right there. And what we're seeing here on the dollar yen is that this is where the Japanese central bank intervened, right? And they pushed the yen and it fell here. But look, it went right back into a technical trend line, right? From here to here to here to here. And now it's beginning to creep up. And what's kind of scary here is that you have a trend line right here that you're now starting to break above, which likely is going to send it up to this upper range. And if that happens, you know what happens, right? The Japanese central bank has to intervene again, and they intervene by basically selling off bonds, probably U.S. bonds, which then can trigger interest rate problems here in the U.S. So again, if that happens and you get a spike here, they are going to have to intervene again. And the U.S. actually warned them not to intervene. So geopolitically, this is getting a little bit on the messy side, and this is where I think this big financial crisis could come. Maybe, again, it's not for years, we don't know, but ultimately you have this house of cards, and eventually it's going to be every man for themselves or every country for themselves. You know, Japan's not going to worry about hurting the U.S. when they have to do what they have to do to save their economy and their currency. Same thing in the U.S., same thing in Europe. And this becomes, again, a system where it's going to ultimately collapse. Not to spread FUD or fear, but again, my goal here is take this or leave it. What I'm saying, up to you guys, but it's better to be informed. I hate people that want to just put their head in the sand and ignore everything around them. At least be aware. Be fully informed with all narratives, all angles. Then you make your decision, whatever it may be. All right, guys. On that note, sorry to get into those things there, but let's do a quick spin here or to find out who's winning. It was Smart Money Commodities last time. So Smart Money Commodities and Miners. And again, that's my commodity service where we are crushing it as usual there. For those of you that love your commodities like gold, silver, oil, nat gas, we trade that nonstop in there. I bad mucker. All right. There you go. It is what it is, right, Tim? One bad. Yeah, one bad. Yeah, one bad. All right. In any case, you are the winner today, buddy. Congratulations. Reach out to Lawton and Verified Investing, and we will get you that 3-month access to Smart Money Commodities and Miners. Hope you like trading commodities and miners, buddy. All right, let's go on to the spinning of the wheel here, find out what we're giving away tomorrow being Friday. Let's see what we got here. And the winner today, ooh, Oh, NordVPN. 1-year membership to NordVPN, guys. That's an awesome thing. Thank you, Nord, for donating these NordVPN 1-year memberships. We appreciate that. And again, if you're someone like me, you like to protect yourself a little bit, and NordVPN is definitely one way to do that. Thank you, as always, to TradingView, Token Metrics, and our other sponsors out there, including Lux Algo and iTrust Capital. Speaking of Lux Algo, we're going to take a quick 30-second break to thank Lux Algo here, that are awesome sponsors here at Verified Investing. Take it away.
Have you considered enhancing your trading experience? We have an amazing tool for you. Lux Algo creates next-gen trading indicators to help the world understand the markets in a smarter way. They have the largest user profile on TradingView and are the only official Discord partner in the technical analysis space. Lux Algo Premium operates seamlessly with top platforms, such as TradingView and Discord, making it the perfect tool for every trader. Take your trading analysis to the next level with Lux Algo. Please visit the description below and sign up for Lux Algo today.
All right, we are back, guys. So, first and foremost, starting on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is right into that level, guys. I mean, this is nuts how Bitcoin is hugging this level. So let's go into it right now. We have this down-sloping channel. We broke above that one. Then we have this up-sloping channel, and we are hugging this zone right here. We did technically close below it the last 2 days, but it is unconfirmed. And again, remember, a confirmation is something I teach in the Winning Trader series. And again, basically it tells you if it's a real breakout or a fake out. And again, the reason why that's so important is because institutional investors and big players know that you're looking at these levels, guys. Trust me, they know. They're watching this stream right now, and they're figuring out how to fool you. Got to look for confirmation. The reason why confirmation works is because it takes them too much money to prop it up. Once the confirmation signal triggers, it's basically they step back, and that's why it works so well for breakouts and breakdowns. Speaking of the Winning Trader series, in late July, we're going to have a special holiday called the Trading and Investing Day to celebrate traders and investors. Figured we need a holiday, so we're going to do a special sale on the Winning Trader series, guys. I think it's going to be 60% off, so watch for that. It is going to be a blowout, one-time event, so be ready for that. If you want to learn 20 hours of everything up in this noggin right here will be yours. All right. So there's your Bitcoin. You are getting a little bit of a bounce today. Let's see what happens. Really, for me, what I'm concerned about is whether or not it confirms to the downside. Then you start your trek down to this lower range. Ethereum, not a whole lot going on. Here, Ethereum upticking just a little bit over the last couple days. A lot of sideways chop. The issue here is that it's below this line. So it is still net bearish. This is still bearish, and I would still favor a move down into this range in the near term. Now, I did buy into some cryptos over the last few days. We know when we had that dip, I talked about it on I think it was on Tuesday's game plan, as it was awesome. We got that nice flush. Already in the money, 10+% on some of these, close to 20%. So great job if you're a member of Smart Money Crypto out there. And I'm just going to continue to look at the charts. You know, whatever the charts say, that's what I do. You know, it's just the basics of it. Okay, on to the next thing. We want to look at gold real quick here, guys. Gold is pushing up. We are into this little wedge pattern higher end here. It is getting rejected off of it at this point, but let's watch and see what happens over the course of the day. If we break this line, you get your next wave of selling. I still have a $2,200 target on gold before I think that next big upswing can potentially come in. Still midterm to long term, still very bullish on gold. But again, the chart's the chart. And again, if the chart can change, right? So here, this is just a bearish pattern. Breaks above here, it becomes a little bit more bullish. But again, as long as we're in this range, that's the probability favoring move right there. Okay. Next up on silver, we'll look at silver, oil, and copper. Actually, we'll do natural gas today. Copper isn't really moving much yet. So here's your chart on silver, down-sloping channel. Did have a good move earlier today. It's pulling back a little bit. This is, again, a bullish channel, right? Any down-sloping channel is bullish. It's just a matter of how long does it stay in, because it could still go lower, right? You can have a bullish channel, but remember, if price comes back here, it's still bullish channel, but it's a lower price. So you just have to understand that aspect. That's a really important thing to get as a trader and investor. So again, ultimately, I would say eventually a breakout, but we could go lower first. And then oil, guys, continues to uptick here, now trading at $81.28. So much for that inflation drop last month, at least for the regular CPI, as we're basically going right back up on oil here. But I love a short up in this range, guys. This is going to be epic dual trend line resistance. So you probably are getting towards the end of the move on oil. I'll track it with you guys right here. And lastly, natural gas, folks. If we throw up the natural gas chart here, We can see natural gas has had a little bit of a pullback. This is the weekly chart. Let's bring up the daily just so we get a better view on a tick-by-tick basis. So one of the things I'm looking for on this chart here, guys, is if we take a trend line here, we can see that we're right into support. All right, so right here. So you have this trend line here, or just connecting points through here, right through there, and we're right there. If you break this line, your next wave of selling begins, right? And the idea is it probably comes to this low right in here, right around 255, give or take, into that range. If you can hold the line, then this has a chance to break out to the upside. So really what we are looking at here, at least on the short term of nat gas, a very pivotal point here today. Do we close below it? Do we stay above it? What's going to happen? And again, if we break below it, I would start to heavily favor that downside move to this area on natural gas. Lots to go over, guys. And again, I do think it's important as we kind of come to the end of this game plan is to just remember, watch the DAX. I mean, especially in the U.S., we're very U.S.-centric. We try to just, or in general, we just focus on stuff that's here. But you got to be watching the dollar-yen. You got to be watching the DAX. You got to be DAX. You got to be watching the CAC in France. What's going on in France? Because at this point, the financial system in the world is so interconnected that literally one domino falls somewhere else and it can create something very quickly here in the U.S. Be aware, folks. And it's not as nice as it is to see new all-time highs on the NASDAQ daily and S&P. The fact that it's because of one company should scare the crap out of all of us. All right, even if you're participating, it still should scare the crap out of you because that is not a healthy market. I think we can all agree on that. All right, on that note, guys, thank you as always for coming in and viewing our game plan with us here at Verified Investing. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget, comment, share this so you can be entered in to win NordVPN tomorrow. And again, make sure you're following Verified Investing on Twitter or on YouTube. You guys have a good one. Take care.